Bars open. Let's start talking. So, how's everybody doing this week?
Super
Got my
good.
my Blurg Fire Ale. I'm ready to go.
Nice. Well done. I got my croissant. So, as I will say is, this week, while everyone was asking everyone else how often they think about the Roman Empire, Dave Filoni just said, hold my beer. What a weird synchronicity of a week.
Yeah. It's like, I'll just give you the Roman Empire in Kintsugi armor.
Yes. Now you're all thinking about it.
Oh my goodness.
Now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I never think about the Roman
just
Empire.
also just classical Greek mythology. I was
Yeah,
just like,
right.
we are in Greek mythology at this point.
Yes.
I am excited.
My answer to that question is once a week, but that's because I watch Jeopardy, and it's at least a question on Jeopardy at least once a week. So it's not like I'm actively like that's my reasoning. If anyone cares,
That makes sense. Were you guys as blown away by this episode as I was? This is my favorite yet. We may say that every week, but
so good. What a full-bodied episode. We got everything.
Yeah. It is so good that I'm gonna give you a peek behind the curtain about as we talked about, I missed 2 weeks ago. Last week I was still recovering from COVID. I did not get a bad hit with it, just got a little bit of the brain fog. And one of the things that you also get with COVID is if you are prone to migraines, you can get migraines. So last Wednesday or this Wednesday
is what you're saying.
Yeah. So this Wednesday I got a doozy of a migraine where I got the actual confusion. And I had to ask my wife, did this happen on Ahsoka? My wife was laughing. She almost started recording me. Because I was like, and I won't list it all because we'll go through it, but I listed all the things that happened because my brain was telling me, there's no way this actually happened this week. It had to have been confusion. This could not have actually happened on the TV show of Star Wars. So,
yeah.
Dude, yeah, that's the way I felt too. I was like, this is...
Well, it was first just a dream.
Yeah.
It became a frightening reality.
Yeah, I was kind of felt like it was like...
Or a special reality. I loved this episode. I'm blown away by Thrawn's dialogue. Lars Mikkelsen, just amazing in live action.
Yeah, just seamlessly just transitioned from an animated character to a live action.
I also super respect the choice to keep him sort of in his Grand Admiral image and that sort of ironed fatigues and slicked back hair. He could have been the Thrawn we got at the beginning of the original Thrawn novel, where he's been in a wasteland or surviving and sort of just as rugged looking as his troops. But no, he's still keeps a tight ship, and I loved that.
Yeah,
I loved that so much.
No, totally. It was such an interesting to finally see Thrawn live action and get teased with it, and just it took my mind a minute because I'm like, oh, this is just Thrawn, because I'm so used to hearing that voice and seeing that from Rebels, and I'm like, it was Thrawn. It's exactly what you would expect from a Thrawn reveal.
Yeah. Troopers, I love troopers, guys.
Yeah. Oh, you do. Yeah, you collect troopers.
I could just think of the Black Series that you're gonna end up filling out all of these.
Enoch character, I was just blown away.
Yeah, it's of course, Thrawn would use Kintsugi to mend his troopers and make them look even more amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I have so many questions too, the red ribbon and what that could all mean, and how they're tied to the Dathomir, the witches of Dathomir. I loved all that stuff too when we got there, and it was we finally get to the same sort of henge structure,
but in
it's
much better condition.
There's those three kind of Greek fate, witches of Dathomir, those Norns.
Yeah,
yeah.
Filoni's doing this job of just which is the job of every great Star Wars storyteller, which is answer one question and pose three more.
Yeah.
I left this going they moved the plot forward, but I have so many additional questions now that we've even had all of these reveals. Yeah.
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 Then they had those little orbs that had the kind of laser thread. I was like, is that the thread they keep talking about? The thread of destiny? You know what I mean? And then they're using it for everything. They're using it to communicate at the start. That's how they were sending their signal.
Right.
I was blown away by the costume design too. I was just I loved so many of the costume designs in this episode. But if you were to tell me what happened in this episode, you're saying, Adam, I would have been there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
No.
Ezra Bridger, it ends with not only a reveal of Ezra Bridger, but sort of an extended conversation. And
I know. Yeah.
I was like, what? And then like, I don't know. I'm also worried because there's only 2 more episodes in the series, and it's like things almost have to wrap up quickly at this point.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah, there's only 2 more. That is correct. I mean, that is assuming they're going to try to wrap it all up, right, and not leave us on a cliff.
I don't think. It's more like,
yeah.
We just got to Ezra. Where's Ezra going to be in 2 episodes? You know, like I'm just wondering.
Yeah, here's the thing: is like I actually feel kind of the opposite because I think we talked about it last week. I thought for sure, which is why I knew it wasn't going to happen, is that I thought for sure we get like Thrawn at the very end of this episode, and then an Ezra maybe tease, and yet we get a lot of Thrawn and a significant amount of Ezra in this episode. So I'm like, we have crossed goalposts faster than I thought we would in this season. So it's leaving me like a lot of like, what are you gonna do for 2 more episodes, right? Like there's so many things they have to reveal, and like the other thing, just this idea of like if someone. This is another thing that I think Star Wars does really well. If someone told me the plot of this episode, I'm like, that sounds dumb. I never want to see that. Does that make sense? Like if someone told me this is the plot, I'd be like, this is going too far in Star Wars. And I watched this whole thing happen. I'm like, this is like perfect Star Wars.
Yeah.
I actually like it. I like the dark magic.
I love it. I just didn't think I would.
No, yeah, I absolutely adored it. I was really sort of doubtful about like how this far away galaxy was going to be special in some way. I was really kind of worried about how you do that. And
Peridia is a graveyard.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. The elephant graveyard thing makes like
just dreary planet.
I mean, it still raises more questions, right? Like, why this planet? What is the significance? And Balin goes on and on and on about like how like the significance. This is a land of fairy tales and stories, and like Balin's got his own agenda.
Yeah, that monologue is so good.
Yeah, he does.
And that is probably the most. I don't know. I can't even say it. There's so many like fascinating parts of this, but I think that if I had to rank them, that's the question I'm most interested in. Like, what is Skull after?
Yeah. I have
like the mysterious power he's searching for.
And these might all be intertwined, but I have a bigger question. Not a bigger question. I don't mean that. The bigger question for me is Thrawn mentions when he starts saying how many people are going to go out, like they're going to send people out to look for things. He specifically says our numbers have been reduced significantly.
How numbers have dwindled.
Why? What has reduced the number of stormtroopers if you're in this dead planet? Like to me is like, what? There's something that to me is like, that's the biggest mystery, is like something is clearly going on here that has left you like he is fighting a war that we're not aware of, or a battle that we're not even aware of yet.
Yeah.
There's definitely something that stirs out there. Something has been calling to Balin's skull. We've heard, you know, this isn't new. We should probably get to this later in Theory Corner, but like, we could just do it now. But like, it's not unusual for like people to hear calls from elsewhere in the galaxy, and like the Jedi only began because they heard calls from the deep core planet of Tython. Like Palpatine in Empire's End is hearing calls in the unknown regions. Rey is hearing calls throughout the novelized sequel books.
Yep.
And now Balin's hearing this call. I'm excited to like actually get to the end of that communication.
What's on the other end of the line?
Reaches whatever this thing is calling to him is. I'm excited to see what that is, and I think we have a lot of theories about what that could be. But I don't know. Let's just keep. We haven't even really talked about Thrawn enough, and like Morgan Elsbeth's such a cool character.
Okay, we'll tease that. We'll come back around to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah. That's going to be a lot of stuff. Like I got a lot.
To a very practical point, which I thought was good, and I also watched it 3 times. I watched it twice in a row when on last Tuesday when it aired, which I've never done with anything live action. I've never just I'm like, run it back. I'm watching this again. And then I just rewatched it, and it took that 3rd time to really realize, and it's because I'm slow, but how this all went about. So the Night Sisters, somehow Thrawn was able to find the Night Sisters, bring them to his side, convince them he can get them off the planet, assuming that's what they want, which it sounds like it is, because they're paying him in something, like what's in the crates. There's another another big question.
Are those crates or are those like coffins?
They sure look like coffins, but
they look like
sure you could put a body in those things for sure.
Don't forget we're talking about necromancers here.
which is
Right.
fun.
And Thrawn even alludes to death and resurrection being, deceptions employed by both the Jedi and the Night Sisters.
Yep.
Great
Such
line,
cool,
great
such cool lines from.
But anyways, that's the way it worked. So the Night Sisters contacted Morgan and told her what was up, and so we have to think just like for one timeline thing here. I guess Thrawn and Ezra have been on this planet for 9 to 12 years, right? Because takes place between 9 and 12 BBY. ABY.
Right.
ABY.
Yeah, that's around. That's
Whoa. That's
roughly
right. For some reason, I had in my mind like 5 years, but you're absolutely right. It's been a decade. They've been there for a decade.
It's closer to 10.
Because
Yeah.
Yikes.
I'm pretty sure Mandalorian wrapped up around 10 ABY. It was like 9 or 10 there, and we know it's after that. We don't know how much further after that. But
Well, based on the internet, it's concurrent with season 3.
Okay. Well, the internet's never wrong.
Well, that whole theory about is that when she's in the Purgle, is Grogu feeling her in the Purgle? That's the whole thing going on the internet right now.
Oh,
Just
really?
like
That's fascinating.
They got passed on the superhighway.
Well, what's interesting, we recently read those the new canon Thrawn novels, and in that first one, Alliances, we meet the Skywalkers, the sort of Force sensitives of his culture, like Thrawn, and they use something called third sight, and that's basically precognition. And so, like, Thrawn's familiar with like precognition and mystical, seers and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he I think there's a lot he knows that he's not letting on to in this episode, and I feel like the way he was talking to some of the characters, it's as if he's kind of seen the future already. Like if he's used this sort of the Fate Weavers, if he's used their power to see his path, maybe who takes him out. That'd be fun too, because there's no Rook, and so like it's not gonna it might not follow the old sort of canon story for him. So like this could be fun, where it's like maybe Ezra is always meant to take him out, and so he's trying to keep Ezra at a distance.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like there's so many things I have questions about.
The big question is, why is Ezra still alive? Right. Like there's so many questions. Yeah. If they've been on here for a decade, which is wild.
Yeah, and he's living around with a bunch of hermit crabs. Everywhere. That felt like Return of the Jedi to me in such a magical way. It was really, really great. And the Kiner brothers got the score right. Or the Kiner family. I guess I haven't gotten the full story, but it's not just Kevin. I guess he employs his family to help him. Right.
I want to talk to you about the music this week too, Ben, because like they do the whole like 2001 sort of melody, but then they descend back off of it and they kind of make it a more dreary sort of melody, and it's like, or I guess a more haunted sort of like dark magic sort of sound to it. That was so interesting. Like as we approached the monoliths, I was like, this is fascinating. When they're flying in that like solid gold ingot of a ship like down the planet, and that the drums. Oh my goodness!
So this was a longer episode, but they took just so much time on some of these shots, and
on the important things
to me. Like let's
landing.
See the terrain, and then to see those like amazing, I think you call them monoliths, those statues of the Death and Sisters and the thing surrounding the castle, and it's like, just stop it, amazing.
Oh yeah, it's like Helm's Deep or like
right. And Thrawn's entrance music was amazing as well. Epic arrival.
All the troops just
Thrawn, I know,
and stomping and sort of like in perfect formation, some great shots in there too.
Yeah. It's there was something special and unique. It's like, I mean, it still seemed, I was like, wow, you got a lot of troopers there, but I guess on a Star Destroyer you employ thousands. It's usually, I mean, we know from the Heir to the Empire books, it's like anywhere from 2 to 60,000, I think, could be on a ship at any one time. So maybe his numbers have dwindled, but the ones that are left are a hard bunch.
So that's interesting. But it's some people I think are in the belief that the troopers are like the product of necromancy.
Yeah.
Like that. And but he also says their numbers have dwindled, which to me begs the question, like, well, if they're taken out, can't you just resurrect them? Like so, like I'm interested in just how all the magic works, and hopefully they get down to what's going on if that is in fact the case. But Enoch seems like a super interesting character that may or may not be part of this the Night Sister magic or whatever.
I want to know his story. He's just like
he seems super interesting.
Yep.
Yeah,
he was like, you will run into these invaders.
The ability for Filoni to introduce a new character and make that character be instantaneously the best character ever in Star Wars is kind of amazing. Like, what was the name of the Inquisitor that died 3 episodes ago that my brain is fizzling on?
Marok.
Yeah, I remember when everyone was like Marok. Remember when the internet was a buzz about Marok?
He sounds a lot like Enoch. Honestly.
Yeah.
They're very similar.
They're very similar, but like Marok, who?
Right.
like now it's just amazing how quickly we forget a great
now
character.
I'm in love with Enoch.
Yeah,
Marok's helmet's in that, like the opening helmet montage.
Yeah,
so, like I was like,
I'm guessing
Like,
next week. Pay attention. I think we might get Enoch's in there in that quick flash of helmets.
Oh,
Really?
that'd be wild. So we know that the troopers,
like the tigers
right
of
from the
gold.
subtitles, they're called night troopers. So that definitely lends itself to what you're talking about, Grant. Where night.
That's actually where I
Night
got that. I was
Troopers.
watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, night troopers. So they must be, part of the Night Sister magic.
Yeah, and I mean, we assume that they're. I mean, I guess we don't assume. I assumed that they were human, right? That they were just the remaining stormtroopers. For all we knew, they're Night Brothers, right? For all we know, they're just going to pull off their helmets and be Dathomirians, right?
Dathomiri, yeah.
Yeah, that could.
We just don't.
That's
know.
right, and they could be employed into the war, and that would explain why they're tougher than leather.
That's actually a great theory. I love
I'm wondering, we've talked a lot about the setup of Mount Tantus and like the cloning operations, but I wonder if he sort of swapped in the Dathomirians for that cloning program.
Oh, 100%.
Totally.
Yeah, this is a big
a good call.
bob and weave towards dark magic.
Because that's a nice twist. Instead of clones, you get resurrected corpses or whatever they are, or these witches and their thrall. But
right. Which was interesting because I know in the lore in Dathomiri culture, the men are subservient to the women. Yet Thrawn seems on equal footing with the Great Mothers, though he is like, "Great Mothers, I salute you," and he's very like reverent of them. So that's interesting too.
I think that's just like that.
Yeah.
Someone brought this up on Reddit just as sort of like a weird drill down thing, but when Morgan Elsbeth like asks him why not not send more than just 2 squads, and he like gives it a minute, and like
that's the meme of the episode.
And I mean, this person's whole point was that like he was like he wasn't like gearing up. He like doesn't want to kill her, but he's actually like. Thrawn is this weird like imperial person that's like the greatest leader there could be. Like he actually listens and values the input of his like underlings, and he's always respectful of them. And like he actually like he was actually weighing it, and he's just like thinking about it for a second, and then he's like no, but he's like he actually always like promotes and he nurtures like his workers, that succeed for him. We know from the early books, like it was the other way around. If you failed him, you would die. And that may still be the case, but we haven't seen a lot of that in canon Thrawn.
No.
Or any of that really. But instead he's just like this really good leader that appreciates everyone's role in the greater works. Yeah. And will promote those that do well. So
yeah, and take a suggestion and mull on it, right? Not just say, well, this is not what I was thinking. No, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait to drop that what I think is gonna happen. We'll talk about that later. I have a theory. We'll talk about that theory later. So many ideas. We'll get the theory corner. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just utterly fascinated with Thrawn as a character and his evolution, and it's fascinating because I know Zahn begins a lot of his books with that epigraph of "For those who stand at the edge of chaos." Like I think a couple of his books have something to that effect at the beginning. Yeah. And I was like, "This Thrawn. That's what Thrawn is." I mean, he's from a region called the Chaos and the Unknown regions that they don't know how to navigate, so they use their Force sensitive navigators. But but he's always navigated chaos as a character. And I feel like now that he's entrenched in dark magic, he's gonna find a way out of it. Like for me, I'm just like, I think he's gonna get out of this hold, the dark magic hold. But I'm interested to see what they do with the
I remember thinking about that character, right? Like he in the new canon, he kind of crash lands in kind of the Empire, sees an opportunity to survive by going through the Empire. Like he survives.
Yeah.
That is Thrawn's ability, is to read a culture
survives.
and survive. And that's what I think he's doing right now. And I think part of it is just that's why he's being very thoughtful about how he talks to the Night Sisters, because he knows who has the biggest power here, right? He knows he is a guest in their place, and and he's survived for a decade, for sure. Right? And that says something. So I mean, again, I keep going back to that decade thing, but like it's a long time.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot has happened.
Yeah, I mean, it must have taken a long time to build that hyperspace ring. And I think this confirms it. The Chimera lives. It has also been patched up with bronze or whatever beautiful like parts.
Yeah, it's also got the Kensuke
exactly.
treatment.
Which is like, oh, the Chimera got cooler looking. Like I didn't think that was possible. But I'm pretty sure,
the Chimera is now.
It just like creaks and rumbles in the frame. That was some of the coolest Star Wars in a while.
The Chimera literally looks like a chimera now, right? This idea of having of two or more parts of having, if you talk about in biological terms, two or more like types of DNA in it. Like it's just like a part of me is like, Filoni, were you always thinking of this? Yeah. Like or who named it the Chimera? Was it
Zahn did.
Also Thrawn's
Zahn. It was like Zahn always
quarters.
This? Yeah,
has to be inside there.
Yeah.
That captain's quarters has to be inside there, and that's like one of my favorite locations in Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Like he has like that crazy statue in there, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he thinks. He's obviously about to do a bunch of research on Ahsoka. That's going to be hilarious because we know he knows her former master, but he doesn't know of Ahsoka. Yep. So, I think so that'll be fun to get some. I mean that in and of itself will probably reveal more about Ahsoka than we ever knew, because we know what a deep dive he does. I mean, he said her species, so we know she's a Togruta. I don't know if he might get into that, and we never sort of think of Ahsoka as like really associated with her people.
I feel like Morgan Elsbeth could answer like most of those questions.
Right.
But sorry, I have motivation questions too for you guys. Like I have some serious motivation questions for you guys. I mean, first of all, Balin and Shin just leaving when the ship is preparing to depart. I was like, why?
So, why
are you listening to this guy? Like, you just met him.
But I love this because I'm currently
Sabine does not remember Ahsoka Tano at this point. Like it's just like no thoughts.
I have motivations I can't address right now. But I just want to say what I love about this.
Adam,
we'll get there. I'll ruminate on it. So I'm currently reading.
Like Ezra's like, hey, what's up? And she's like, anyways, Ahsoka's dead, but Ahsoka had to die for me to get here. But
I don't know.
How's it going?
But I'm currently reading a trilogy by Joe Abercrombie called the First Law trilogy. It's high fantasy. I'm halfway through the third book of the trilogy, so I highly recommend it. Depending on how it lands, right? Like it's like it could really be a real stinker in the next 300 pages, but real short trilogy, really great. It's like Game of Thrones if it wasn't completely, it didn't hate everyone ever. Like there are good characters in it, even though they're struggling.
If it wasn't grimdark,
grimdark, and it is grimdark, but you cheer for some of these characters. But my point is, the thing I love about high fantasy sometimes is that like it goes all the way back to Tolkien, and before that, of just like you just have all these different people on different quests going and everything, and it's all going to come together. And the fact that like you have like Bale and everyone else just going like we got a side thing going on here. Like the second I heard that, I'm like I am so in. I am so in now that you have like this is not because we've gotten so much in the live action television right now. And in media in general, currently we have linear storytelling where everyone's on the same path, going in the same direction. And I don't know why we're telling stories that way right now. I have theories. Anyway, but I won't talk about the theories about why I think that is. But I'm appreciating story now where we have like Ahsoka's on her journey. We've got Sabine on her journey. We've got Thrawn on his. We've got Balin on theirs. Like we've got all of these people going in all of these other directions, knowing they're dovetailed together at the end. And I'm like, that's great storytelling, where you just have differing motivations, not just everyone just doing it. We'll talk about what those motivations are because I'm not 100% sure what they are, but I know they all have motivations.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's fast. It's really, really fun to have so many different trajectories for all these characters, and sort of like they will cross at some point. And Ahsoka's arrival, I think, will bring a lot of people together in terms of Ahsoka probably taking down Balin's skull.
Yeah.
I wonder. I have a feeling they're all going to be abandoned together, and then suddenly the motivations will, their relation will change a bit. I'm all ready. I'm ready to join Balin Skull's side. Like, I want to know what he's like. I'm just like, tell me more about this beyond.
Right. Yeah, we can move off Thrawn and go to Balin Shin Island and sort of talk about them.
Have I teased enough? Can I just say what I think's happening here? Because I'm just kind of like, I can't not. Balin Skull's the big bad of this entire season, not Thrawn. He's the big bad, and it's gonna be. I have a feeling we're gonna have Thrawn uniting with our heroes. I have a feeling that Thrawn's going to do a bit of a not hero turn, but a bit of like the enemy of my enemy type of thing. I think that's the story we're going to get, because I think Balin he's kind of said it. So he said as much in this episode. He basically wants to kill everyone. He wants everything dead. Like, he just wants this everything. And I think he's going to awake something that's similar. We have Filoni, who loves doing, like, what was the name of, again, sorry, I still have like brain fog, but in Rebels, the giant thing that they awakened, Bendu, thank you. Like, he loves giant powerful force beings, right?
Yes.
And I have a feeling we're gonna get something like that, and it's gonna be a larger of like, oh boy, we all have to take care of this thing. Anyway, that's my thought.
Right. And so Balin is trying to wield that power, to wield that thing.
Yeah, Balin just wants to set everything back to zero.
If the old stories are true,
that's
apparently there were Jedi tales that spoke of something on this planet, a force of some kind, or some kind of power.
Yeah,
and and so I'm excited to see what that is. Yeah. Is it like the smoke monster from Lost, or like,
or the Leveler
from Loki, or like, is it some kind of giant thing? Is it like a giant Rancor? I know the Dathomiri definitely rode Rancor back in the day. Like,
I think it is.
What is it? A giant kaiju of some kind? Like, what is it? Is it, where there be whales, are there krakens? You know what I mean? Like, there's. I think it's something, because one thing that Filoni hasn't given us so far in this episode is a planet, which is something we get in almost every Star Wars, is something that is literally can destroy planets or destroy civilizations, right? And I think the way he's going to do something like that is a force wielding thing, right? Like, it's going to be mythical, not
like a
scientific.
Like a Suma Verminoff, force wielding Suma Verminoff.
That's something I was thinking about, because we do see Vader fight one off at some point when he's traveling, like the Maw or something.
There's a lot of dead space whales around this planet. Right. Just saying.
Yeah. And if you don't know what a Suma Verminoth is, it's the creature from the Solo movie that was in the Maw, that hung out near a black hole just cause.
Wait, isn't Suma Verminoths also the space slugs? The name of the space from Empire? What are those?
Those are. Oh my gosh! Why did you have to ask me that right now?
I just
my
broke
brain.
Exogorths.
Exogorths.
They're Exogorths. Thank you. You're right. Suma Verminoths and Exogorths. I don't know how I got those two things confused.
Yeah, but it could be an Exogorth, though. I mean,
no, but you're right. It's got to be bigger. An Exogorth's just a giant space slug. You're right. It's got to be.
Yeah, but they also navigate in what's it called? Migrate.
Hyperspace.
Migrate through galaxies, but I think they do it slow style, but.
That's right.
But this also happened in the EU, in Legends novels, with Jason Solo being called to Abeloth.
Yeah.
That's that's like a dark force entity that, when the Fate of the Jedi books were written, it was around the time Clone Wars was in production, and I think they reached out to the author of those books, and the authors, I think there was multiple authors, but and said if you want to incorporate Abeloth into the sort of the Mortis arc and those Celestials, you're more than welcome to. And they actually do in that book series. They actually do incorporate sort of the Mortis arc and Centerpoint Station, and how like they basically hint at the idea that there were Celestials that were moving planets with a large space station to basically arrange them in, and then also to put one planet, I guess, as a sort of like prison world for one of the Celestials. And the Celestial became Abeloth, who was like this dark entity that was all powerful, that took over Jason's mind and then basically affected everyone and went into multiple people. Kind of jumped into people, shapeshifted, jumped in. Was a creature. Like Dark Ray is kind of the closest.
It is Dark Ray. I definitely got vibes of that. Yeah. But I mean, the end of the old EU was getting into real large ideas. Like so, Centerpoint Station, for the Grogu's out there, was it was around the I thought I was fine. I really do have brain fog. Around Han Solo's Corellia. It was around Corellia, right? And so it was this giant thing that they all worked on. The Corellians worked on, and they knew it was there, but they had no idea how old it was. And then throughout the old EU, they find out that basically this thing has been here before the history of the Star Wars galaxy, and it had moved all of the stars and all of the planets around the Corellian system in a specific thing. So we're talking about and we get to the point where we almost get the answer of what that thing is and who created it, and then they canceled the old EU, which fine, not gonna pick hairs, but boy, having read all of that, I almost got the answer, and then I'm like, can someone just tell me what the answer to that was? But it felt like Marvel Comics Celestials. You saw them in the Eternals, if you saw the Eternals, but I don't know if anyone saw the Eternals. But they're this giant things, and we know that Star Wars likes to flirt with that in the old EU, and that seems very much up his alley. So we'll see. And
just like per Abeloth's motivations, she's a character that is just trying to recreate a family of god tier force wielders. She's just trying to recreate just a super powerful family of force wielders, and that's kind of her motivations, which I don't know. I would love to see Filoni sort of, if he does bring that character into the canon, it would be cool if we do see it in an all new way and fun new story or something. And also we're seeing the great mothers of the Dathomir. Is there and it's evoking a lot of Dune and the Bene Gesserit, and sort of is there if these are the great mothers, or are they sort of the reverend mothers, and is there a mother superior? Is there one even above them that's even more powerful? Is she the great power?
Having worked my way through the Dune stuff recently, I had the same thought. Who's the greatest mother?
Yeah. Filoni's also Villeneuve doesn't get to have the weird little devices, the warbling devices that move around slowly, molasses through a hallway, the hunter killers in Dune, or the scanners in Blade Runner. It's Filoni's I'm doing it too.
I know. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, borrow from the best, right?
Yeah. No, it's great. I love.
So Adam, you're thinking just to circle back on this, because now I've had time to think about it. So you think the motivation for Balin Skull is what? Terminating all life in the galaxy, or killing all the Jedi,
or killing all the Force users? I wonder if he thinks the Force is the ultimate evil in the world, right? In this idea, because so have you seen, he's still on his belt, there's a green, it sure looks like a green kyber crystal. Have we seen that going around?
No.
On his belt, look through the internet, it seems like he still has his old kyber crystal sitting in his belt buckle. It seems like he has a really interesting connection to the Force, in terms of he's not he just feels like someone who thinks that the Jedi were corrupt, the Sith are corrupt, everything's bad. He just feels like an anarchist in a lot of ways to me. Just this is what's destroying the world. It's not humans, it's not governments, it's the Force. The Force is corrupting everything. The Force is bad, and I'm going to use it to destroy everything.
Yeah, I loved that he was talking about canceling the cycle. He's the Empire
and that cycle
down the Jedi topple over the Empire, and it goes on forever, and I'm going to end that. And I was
right, but what you can talk about is it's not the Empire, it's a Sith, right, who led the Empire, right. So
does he know my thought is that it was the Sith that?
I think so. I think he's tuned in enough to know.
He named it the Empire, so
Yeah, the Empire led by a Sith, the Jedi led by a Jedi Council, right? Like I think what he's saying is just like light versus dark, and we're all stuck in the middle. Right? Like we as the universe just stuck in the middle, or the galaxy, of these two forces fighting, and we just keep getting put through the meat grinder, right? As their endless battle continues. So my thought is like he just wants to end the force.
That's interesting. Because I don't really know what he's talking about at all, and it's sort of. But I'm fascinated by all of it. I mean, I like it from a storytelling point of view because I also want to break the cycle first. It's like, let's do something different and have a different antagonist and a different motivation.
That was the most meta part of the story. Really, was he was like,
was it the most meta
Jedi
part?
fall and Empire's rise again and again and again, because we know through video games and ancillary material that it's constantly been a cycle of the Sith have control the galaxy, the Jedi control the galaxy, the Sith control the galaxy, the Jedi control the galaxy, and he's just like, I'm going to go back to the beginning and stop the cycle from ever starting. To me, that's what you're saying, Adam. Extinguish the Force, or it's like if the Force itself, I guess, or stop either organization from forming.
Right.
Really.
Something. Yeah.
But use the world between worlds. Like I guess use the
that's a good point.
Use that. Use the gateway. Is that the power? You know what I mean? Like there's so many. I think we could really drum up so many theories for what this power could be, because it's like, again, there's another thing from Legends. The what is it called? The flow walking or something. What's that one? There's like other time.
Oh
powers
boy,
in Star Wars.
I forgot.
Are out there.
I wiped myself. Yeah. So Jason goes on his like spirit quest, which is one of my favorite things, where he just goes to all the other Force users and learns all these other Force abilities, which I'm like, that's awesome. I want to see that. That's great. That's what we should give Luke when we start telling his in between. Story is like all these other Force users. What can you possibly do? And one of the things Jason learns is what was it called? Flow walking.
Flow walking. That's right. Yeah, by the Angti monks. He learned
he basically can time travel, and like he ends up like bringing people back. Like he does something. Names are gonna escape me, but when Anakin Skywalker or Anakin Solo yes, there's an Anakin Solo dies. He brings his girlfriend back in time to be able to say goodbye to her like one night. Like so he does these things to turn people, to bring them back to pivotal moments where they technically could step in and change it, but he's like, just don't do it, because it kind of
so we've seen character, or we've known
time
characters to change the course of history in Star Wars before. It's just what could be. For me, I'm hopeful that Baylan, it's actually like, because I think at one point Shin goes, "Oh, you see a future here in this wasteland?" He's like, "I see like the ancient witch kingdom of Dathomir, and the Great Mothers confirm this." So that tells me that whatever this Jedi tale is, the witch kingdom is part of that tale, and whatever the power is, it's probably connected to the witch kingdom of Dathomir in some way.
Can I make a?
That's kind of what I'm. Thinking. And it could be a well or a font of power, because that's also something that's alluded to in Legends and Abeloth and sort of that sort of stuff.
Maybe that's the thing. Like maybe you're right, where he doesn't want to destroy the Force, but he wants to destroy the Jedi and the Sith, who have these like very stringent rules about what the Force is, and takes everyone with them, right? Like think about, like he's talking about the Night Sisters, right? Why are the Night Sisters destroyed?
Right.
Because of the Sith, right? Like all of these other Force users who have like communed with the Force, and like the Night Sisters, you can say they're witches and they're evil. They never, as far as I know, tried to take over the galaxy, right? The only two entities trying to wield power in the galaxy that we've seen are Force users are the Sith, number one, and to some extent, in a certain point of view, you could say the Jedi, right? Maybe not. I wouldn't say it's necessarily true, but if you look at like Baylan's perspective, what he saw was them getting really close to the powers of government and becoming tools of the government, right? And so from his perspective, the Sith and the Jedi are just are basically just too corrupt. And then Force is fine, but once you start putting these my brain's faulting, but too many things on it. You know what I'm saying? I hope. Please someone talk. I stop.
I really do love that Baylan loves the idea of the Order, but also thinks they were lost and that there was no future there, like he says in this episode, like as if like the entire ideology was doomed in his mindset. But he also like alludes to the fact that he was like there when the Jedi Temple was burning, and he saw it. Like If we do come across some greater power, I really do hope we get some glimpses of Balin's past, like just sort of like more set up for who he is as a character. Because like, I love that sort of stuff. I love digging into
my favorite crazy internet thing of the week related to that is that people are going nuts about whether or not he's the little kid that gets startled when Anakin turns on his lightsaber. Have you seen that one?
Yeah. That kid has been so many.
I know so many things.
Yeah.
I'm like, as a parent of a 3-year-old, I hate to say the sentence I was about to say, but that kid dead.
Yeah.
Move on.
You you hope that he survived.
And
though,
Balin,
I know a lot of people like Snoke, right? Snoke, like look at Snoke.
Yeah, that could be a lightsaber.
Balin already said he was like a little older than Shin Hati when he when it fell too.
Yeah.
Well,
which makes sense.
That's better
because he old. I love that he gave us Boken Jedi. That's a new term.
And
right.
Boken is a wooden sword used for practice by samurai, and that sort of makes sense. Just like this next tier post formal order raised Jedi, and so Shin Hati was like like me, and he was like, no, you're something. I'm training you to be something more, and that.
That generates more questions.
Yep.
I have more questions.
Yeah.
That is tantalizing. That's just it's going around my head on a Mobius strip, and I'm like, what is something?
All right. So
more?
what's your read on that? What do you think that means?
Something awesome. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like I just have no idea. But it's got to be like if you're more than just a Jedi, or I mean, because it's true. The Boken Jedi just sort of like get put on a little path. They follow the will of the Force. They have some little mission that they work on. Some missions are bigger than others, but Quinlan Voss is probably helping with the path now, and Cal Kestis is, I don't know, he was going to try and rescue the, a data archive and rebuild the order. And then, Obi-Wan Kenobi's babysitting, and like, everyone sort of has their own like smaller thing. But so, I mean, if it's something more, then it's going to be a mission to change the galaxy, I suppose. But
yeah. I think he's.
He could also. She could also be a leader. Like he could be passing on to her sort of a leadership position for whatever comes next. Assuming that the Jedi.
She feels like.
I know that goes against your theory, Adam, but
no. Which is okay. We will get to Ezra in a moment, and we'll talk about how all my theories all the time are always wrong, and I'm always sad.
Oh no, I know. I was so sad.
No,
I mean, not sad. I was just sad for.
But as I will say. And this is not just blowing smoke. I'm always so happy when I'm wrong because they give me exactly what I didn't know I wanted. But we'll get to that. But my thought is that like if my theory is correct and that Balin is the big bad of this whole thing, is that this is a very super villainy way of saying I'm training you to be so much more, which is basically like just a cog in something that's going to change the galaxy, which means she's a sacrifice. Like she's just a chess piece. But in his view, a chess piece in a glorious path, right? So she is so much more than one of these people doing all of those kind of minimal things that you're talking about, Ben. Because when we look at what the Jedi are doing during the rise of the Empire, is a lot of them are just biding their times until someone else can come along and fix it. Not really get cynical about it.
Right.
Kind of the case, right?
They're waiting for their moment, but
they're waiting for like a chosen one, perhaps, to come along.
Yeah, or
I'm not chosen. Someone else chosen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. When it comes to Balin's mission, Balin's search for this power, and him being the main villain of the entire piece, I have to think it's because the show is called Ahsoka. It's really dealing with her sort of Jedi heritage and sort of how she's now expanding beyond that and her evolution after the sort of Force encounter with Anakin, and then. Now, approaching this planet, she seems like she has a completely new attitude about just like how to go about things, and but also it's like I think it's a lot of people dealing with their Jedi past, like Balin and Ahsoka. And to me, if they do introduce a new power on this planet, it could be super interesting if it also reflects that Jedi past in some way. And if you do a little more digging on the Witches of Dathomir, there's some information in Legends that basically a Jedi had started the the Witches of Dathomir. Like a character from long ago is exiled, and Thrawn many times in this episode says the word exile. As we're in exile, our numbers have dwindled. To me, this is the planet a Jedi would be exiled to by the Jedi Council.
Yeah,
and starts this kingdom. And to me, it's just fascinating if a great power does exist here. It has some sort of connection to the Jedi and how the Jedi wronged this character, and so the character lived in torment because of that fate.
Lived in torment or lives in torment.
Or right. Or lives in torment.
Right, because
Correct.
if we talk about the Sith, right, their
Still
whole
out
thing.
there.
I mean, we know from Palps, right, he knows the power of immortality to the fact that he just if you read Rise of Skywalker expanded novel, right, he jumps out of that body immediately as falling down the shaft and is living forever for the most part, right? So he not probably him or Plagueis are not the two to probably first discover the path to immortality.
Yeah.
It'd also be so cool if there was a prison, kind of like the prison they kept Sauron in Lord of the Rings, when he was the necromancer. That'd be very cool.
I mean, we have Ahsoka the White.
Right. We're halfway there.
Right.
Right.
We're halfway there, right? And again, that's what Lucas and that's what Star Wars is. It's borrowing. It's like a patchwork of our greatest tales,
and this series,
of human history.
Right. But this series is really focusing on being high fantasy, right? Like more than others, in a delightful way.
That's what keeps me. That's what keeps bringing me back to the giant squid or the kraken, or the eldritch Cthulhu. I keep going back to this massive kaiju as the power, but I don't know, because I know it's been so fantastical so far that I'm like. And you almost want to see the Purgles and interact with something else, like a giant creature or something. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, we know that Ahsoka is going to pop out in a giant Purgle, right? So we have an opportunity to get that interaction immediately.
Yeah. So Ahsoka, I guess there's not too much to say about her in this episode, though. You mentioned the most meta part of the episode, Grant, and I have to say the most meta part would be when they said "in a galaxy far, far away," when it was actually a character says, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
A long time ago.
I'd be like, tell me more stories, Huyang.
Yeah, it's like Huyang, more.
I feel like as a grumpy old man, I feel like I should hate that. And I feel like I do hate when they do certain things which are kind of like callbacks or fan service. But boy, did that actually make sense, because it literally is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow, you did the work to make that work in a way that didn't feel clunky. I was blown away by not hating that line.
Yeah.
I heard it and I'm like, I should like that. Why do I like that? I should hate that.
Because it
Adam.
works.
Hate that. You should hate
that's
it.
the thing.
But it's
Filoni's
great.
got taste, man. He hits all these fan service buttons, but I mean, he never. I don't think he ever does it. It doesn't feel shoehorned in. It's very organic to what Star Wars in.
Yeah.
Dialogue.
Yeah.
The way Balin and Morgan Elsbeth are talking about star whales is enchanting and mesmerizing, and I'm like, more.
Yeah.
And what are we talking about here?
Whales.
Star whales is what we're talking about. I'd like everyone to know. And it sounds amazing. The dialogue is on point.
Yeah.
When she's like, my ancestors learned to harness and ride these creatures before the days when time was counted. I was like, dude, Filoni can write a Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nearly everything Thrawn says is incredible. Everything, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, they're the two stars, right? Balin and Thrawn. Sabine, obviously, fantastic. And I think maybe that first conversation that Huyang and Ahsoka have, it's kind of the nature of the Force, and it's sort of like, she's like, I didn't train Sabine to make the right decision, and I feel like Huyang's pushing back, being like, this could be the Force working. She only ever had one choice, and this is
right. This could be her
right.
only choice. Yeah,
and so that makes me believe that Sabine. I really want her to remain just a tool of the Force and not a Force wielder. But man, they are teasing that she's going to be able to wield the Force at some point, right?
I know they really are, and I kind of want them to go there. I wouldn't hate it, but I kind of love this idea of like the line I keep saying in my mind is like, she doesn't have the Force has her.
Right. Isn't this
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Isn't yes, that and that's the way I wanted to be. But isn't this the second time that she's tried to use the Force and then thought she was using it, but it was something else going on?
Something else was
Yeah,
happening.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a good bit if they keep going with that, just to sort of like,
Right. Maybe they're just messing with us
Yeah.
and not messing with her.
Yeah.
Right. Which I would appreciate.
Yeah, I would appreciate that too. But
It'd be cool if there's like a mystical way in which she garners the Force in the plot or something at some point.
Yeah.
I also am hopeful she can use the Force at some point and tap into it, because she's really, displaying all the traits of Mandalore, or the Mandalore, as we know the concept to be. So
that could be a fun wrinkle.
she's basically half Jedi, half Mandalorian. It's exactly what the Mandalore supposedly was 1,000 years ago.
We know we're going for the long.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we're going for the long storytelling here, right? Yeah. And we know all these. This is part of the Mandoverse that's going to end in a.
And no one jumped
film.
on that mythosaur in season 3.
There's still a chance that Sabine is the Mandalore, right?
The Mandalore,
she really could be.
So I'm holding out hope, that she is just like the old Mandalore of old, with the Jedi powers as well as the Mandalorian.
It'd be funny if
abilities.
there was just like it was a mix-up and she and Bo-Katan were fighting for a second. And she accidentally disarms Bo-Katan and picks up the sabers. She's like, "Oh, you dropped this," and just like Bo-Katan just holds her head, like hangs her head, and it's like, "Not again."
I don't know. Or Bo-Katan drops it, and
actually, it's gone. The Darksaber's dead.
I mean, we'll see.
Okay.
It'll be reforged, and then she'll drop it, and Loth Cat will grab it and drop it, and then Sabine will pick it up, and because the Loth Cat technically disarms, it actually says blah 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 blah. Right. Sorry, I cannot stand the whole thing about this. Anyway,
but there was also that really nice. It was a beat. It wasn't really a throwaway line, but those, like you said, the 3 Norns, the 3 witches say that one reeks of Jedi. And like, and Sabine's like, "Don't look at me. Like, I don't know. Is she talking to you?" She looks at like Balin and Shin. She's like, "Y'all are Jedi.
It's kind of a great moment.
Like,
I read that as Shin or like Balin, because I was like, Shin definitely feels redeemable, and Shin definitely feels, she feels like she's being kept in the dark. Like she's like, we're still working with witches. Like Balin just walks away from her when Thrawn gives him the order, and she just follows reluctantly. And I'm like, why is Balin sort of like just leading without informing her about, the exact motivations for what's going on here? He seems so taken with whatever's calling to him that he's not even like looking behind him and making sure shit knows what's going on.
Did I talk about this last week? Because again, brain fuzz. But like, Carly and I were talking about, like, we kind of wish Shin was like 13. Like the way they write her and they write some of the things they say about her is that she should be a child soldier. And so part of what I'm trying to get at there is, like, regardless of my thoughts about that, I feel like she's very similar to Ahsoka, who got pulled into something and does not know what she's part of. Like, just as like Ahsoka got pulled in the Jedi Order and then is suddenly a child soldier, that Shin has this ability. There's no Jedi Order for her. She's pulled in by Balin, and now she's used by Balin. That I agree. Like, there's a turn for her of just her not seeing the other options that are out there for her, right, with the Force.
It does sound like, I mean, it would make sense that he's keeping her in the dark because she's not going to like what fate he has in store for her.
Yeah.
Right. So Ben, this is kind of where I was at too, where I was like, he's searching for some ancient power on this planet. He's bringing his Padawan with him. If this is and I'm like, if this is a Mortis type, celestial type character, this character in the Legends novels has been known to jump into other people,
or
basically, take over, possess other people.
Gods need sacrifices,
and so I'm just worried for Shin, and I hope. But what would be cool, like the ultimate here, would be if like whatever the power is does go into Shin, and she's like the ultimate, like, sort of badass of the show.
Yeah,
that would be
cool. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
And then we get to see all that choreography Ben's hoping for, where she's just like doing handsprings with like chopping off people's heads.
I mean, that would be great. Yeah, if it's a vessel, because we've kind of, I mean, this show could sort of be the keystone for how Palpatine stayed alive. This sort of like Force soul essence transfer that Darksiders seem to be able to do. We haven't, I'm not saying it's the Emperor, but we've seen Bane learned about that skill, right? he allegedly he was. I don't know if he was
Sure.
successful, but we think he was. I think if and I kind of don't want to spoil the Bane trilogy, but
Well, in the Clone Wars, I think there's the simple scene where they kind of activate his ghost or something.
Yeah,
and,
they
like,
activate his
Right,
Sith
but-
Wraith,
all right.
right?
but
yeah,
I think
so
it's like a hologram. I don't even know if it's
earmuffs for the
spoiler or
next
not,
10 seconds if you don't want the end of the of the Bane trilogy spoiled. But he
Shit,
does
books.
it sort of he tries to transfer his essence into Xana, his Padawan,
Yeah.
before death. And we assume he was able to do that. I think it was kind of left up for interpretation, but it could be something like that. Where this is, I love the idea of Abeloth being the one because it just increases the stakes. It's not Jedi or Sith, and then but she needs a vessel, and Balin's gonna make Shin that.
It's also proof of transference. Like if Thrawn can gather that data, basically imprison Shin, and she's been there's been
Exactly.
transference, he can help the Emperor back, and all that stuff can they can be like, here's how we're gonna get Palpatine's spirit back into the clone. This on this planet, this dark magic worked or whatever.
Yeah.
There's stuff like that could tie into the material, but again, Balin could be the one who's basically taken over by this power too. Like he could be the one that.
But for very practical
And also,
reasons,
the
I hope
thing
not.
shapeshift.
So
If the character can shapeshift, it could really play with the Ezra, Sabine, Shin sort of triangle. Like you could really play with that whole thing and spook people out. Sabine could be evil to Ezra, and Ezra could be evil to Sabine, or however it's manipulating people.
Yeah. I like the idea of Shin being the big bad, or transferring, or being around, or being more, because two reasons. One, it's just why introduce this character if you're not going to do anything with her, right? Like other than I don't want her to be the exposition character, right? They're just for exposition, which is just, if that's what it is, I'm going to get real angry because that's a waste of a character, right? Is that's just someone you can talk to that doesn't make it feel like, so they explain to the audience an audience surrogate. I don't think that doesn't seem like anything Filoni's ever done before. A character is there to serve a purpose.
He doesn't.
So
have fat
I
in
think
his
she's
stories.
no, she's going to be more. The other thing, and this is getting a little behind the scenesy, and I don't want to use. Okay, Ray Stevenson, great, passed away far too young, far too soon.
Yeah.
Horrible. They do not seem phased by his passing. Right, which makes me really believe that
Either they're being super secretive,
phased
or
from
they're
a
just
production.
it's not actually going to affect the story.
His story is the end of the season. He doesn't make it through the end of the season, and it would be weird if it honestly be weird for him to still be alive at the end of the season with the way they're setting him up.
He is the archetypal villain of a Rebels season. So he's the Grand Inquisitor. He only lasts kind of one season as that main villain, and he's
going to bring forth
this season
the bigger bad, right? He's going to end up, getting hoisted on his own petard.
I have no idea what that means, but I love it. What's a petard?
Yeah,
Really?
That will definitely be the confrontation with Ahsoka.
Petard's a steak.
I'm just interested in this thread of
You've
destiny.
never heard hoisted on your
think I've
petard?
heard
Anyway, it's a great saying. You should look it up.
It's a great thing.
Yeah, just be careful when you're saying it.
It sounds vile.
It's not great, but it's a wonderful saying. It's fine. It's not bad. It's just
Should we talk about Ezra?
Yeah. All right. Can I start? I feel like I've been starting a lot, but since I had the big theory of what Ezra was going to be, I will just say this very quickly, and then I'll let you all go. Is that I really, really thought I wanted him to be this broken down, being used by Thrawn, and then when I saw him there leaning against the thing,
Thriving.
I honestly got choked up.
Singing.
I got super choked up, and I was so happy. I love that Ezra spent 10 years in exile, just being Ezra. I have
He doesn't even skip a beat in the conversation. He's like, I knew I could count on you.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
And
it's kind of like their last
heartbreaking.
conversation they had.
Also heartbreaking, but wonderfully
Yeah.
heartbreaking. So I'll let you guys go, but I was just, it was.
So we
wonderful.
get Ezra, and he's like, "Hey, but so really funny back and forth. I love how they took the time.
Mhm.
Also, they her going into that village. They took. I think it lasted 5 minutes of her walking through the village and just looking at stuff, and you're like, "Oh, Ezra's not there. Ezra's not there. Ezra's not there." And then finally you get there.
What should we name these these crab people? The the undershells or the shellfoots.
They have a name.
No, they're called the Noti.
The
but
Noti,
they look like
yeah.
hobbits. So I think they need like a hobbit kind of.
I like the undershells.
Shells,
Yeah,
undershells.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
undershells.
Jenny
I
loves
love
them
it.
because she loves horseshoe crab or what are they called? Hermit crabs.
They know a lot
Yeah,
for
Hermit-
living under a rock. I gotta say.
It's pretty amazing. It's so Star Wars. It's so Star Wars and so Rebels. Like it's so something that Dave Filoni would
Yeah,
have done.
but it's
yeah.
perfect.
Guys, can I, one tangent before we
Sure.
go full Ezra.
Before we Ezra. Yeah.
Is everything on this planet fearful?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, because we got the Noti, the undershells hiding right there, big defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And then what is?
And we got the
what's
other
the
thing.
Howler sort of
or
being a
the,
wimp.
howler? Is that what they're called? Or hounds? Howler.
Howlers.
I loved. I just want to say I loved that bit with the howler. That was like shamed.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was made.
It was
Dog
great.
owners.
Oh, just
Yeah,
like
sure.
such a great bit, and you knew exactly what was going to happen, and it was so great. Yeah.
They took the time with that too. They really just held up that shot. I was
like
nice.
he's coming back, and then like he's like, yeah.
Very Chaplin.
If you're a
Yeah.
dog lover, how can you not love them?
It's so it just made me think of Finn,
Yeah,
my dog.
yeah.
It was
Just like the happy face and the wagging tail when she brings him back, and it's just like,
Mhm.
But anyways, Ezra in his chainmail
yes,
and
Yep.
yeah, chainmail,
Yeah.
and like
the villager
Prince of
settler
Persia,
attire.
outfit. Yeah. I forgot what you asked now.
Looks exactly like animated Ezra. Like they did such a good
He
job
did
with the
spot
actor.
on.
The voice
yeah.
is
like,
perfect.
it's
The
wild.
mannerisms.
Voice,
Voice,
the
perfect,
mannerisms, as you said, the
he
delivery,
really
like
looks
it's just
like
I'm
it.
like that's
Yeah.
Ezra. Like
Really
Sabine
looks like
and Hera took me a little while to like
Beard though,
to
big bushy beard.
bigger, yeah. But like he was Ezra immediately. Like yeah.
So he gets right in and he's like, "Hey, but it worked, right?" Which is talking about the like Purgle maneuver and like the end of that. And he's like, "Right?" Because he doesn't know, of course, if it worked because he was launched. I mean, yes, he took the big bad out of the galaxy, but like, I mean, there was a lot of other stuff that needed to happen.
But like he doesn't know the Empire fell. Like I just that to me is like amazing. Like he doesn't know. Like
So
he
I
won.
wanted to
Like,
do a
that's amazing.
speed run.
Yeah.
That's the best line too, where Sabine's like, "Typical, always a plan, never a good one."
Yep.
It's like savage
Yeah.
takedown.
Yeah, that was fantastic. So I wanted to do a speed round because,
Then he's like, "I can't wait to
yeah.
go home."
Burp, burp,
Yeah.
burp, burp.
About that return
Burr,
trip.
burr, burr.
I
Yeah,
cannot wait
he's like,
to
I've
board
got
that
so many
plane."
questions. Should we speed round what his questions are?
Yeah.
Because I assume next episode he'll be like, he'll know.
Thrawn is the only one who like has howlers. Why are you?
Why are
on
you?
a
Yeah,
howler?
that was one of them. Why are you on a
Yeah.
howler? How did you
That
get
was
here?
one.
Obviously.
Yeah, how'd you
Why
get
did it
here?
take so
yeah,
long? What happened to the?
Is that my lightsaber?
what happened to the Empire? Yeah.
Is Hera doing okay? He'll ask about Hera and Zeb and Chopper and.
Does anyone know about a kid that came from a desert planet that was really
Yeah.
important?
Oh yeah. That's right. He's like, oh, totally. He knows about Luke, right?
He knows about Luke. Hey, did anyone hear about Obi-Wan Kenobi? Has that
yeah,
happened yet?
right. He's like, did Obi-Wan Kenobi ever show himself? Oh my god.
Does that mean anything to
yeah.
you? Yeah. Yeah, it does not know. The other thing he does not know about.
He's like, "Have you fed my cat?"
Have you fed
oh
my
no,
cat?
yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah.
it's dead.
She's like occasionally.
Yeah, like he does not know about Jason, right? Because there's no way he would know about that. So that's wild. So he would not even have a question to ask about that. But like, she's just gonna drop Jason because like she probably doesn't think about the fact that she wouldn't know that, and that's gonna be like an amazing.
Yeah.
moment.
So Jason must be the exact age of whatever ABY we are, right? Because it had to have because she had Hera had to be pregnant pretty much when Kanan died.
Right, which is right
He's
at
like 10 though.
So that's
which
about
is
right. That's
about
about right.
where we're at. Yeah. So that sounds right. Yeah.
That
So just like so that's so weird. It's just like so Ezra was born on whatever day it's called, Empire Day.
Empire Day, yeah.
So was Jason born on whatever the equivalent is for
fall. That's dude,
fall?
that's why
That'd be
she wasn't at the
hilarious.
Battle of Yavin. She was like giving birth.
That's right. She was like giving birth. Yeah. She's an hour 38 of
I don't even
Yeah.
recall.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I thought Ezra was great. I am excited to see what
I'm so
his
happy we
role
get
will be.
2 episodes with her, maybe. I have a feeling we may just have I wonder if we're gonna have an episode of just Ahsoka. figuring out how to get there, or if we're just going to get it
So
there
I had
immediately.
this wild idea. Are we in getting to theory time yet?
We've been through
okay.
theory time. We kind of broke out.
All right.
Yeah, we're there and back again.
When we started talking about Balin, that's
All right,
where
I've got a full tinfoil theory.
Oh, let's go.
Actually, when Ahsoka is never going to leave that planet, or at least not in this series, and that Balin is actually going to present. I know we've been talking about how it's going to be malevolent and we need a bigger bad and all that, and you guys have totally sold me on it. But what if Balin's actually got a good idea? And what if they get abandoned and maybe Balin's got an alternate Jedi Order that he wants to set up that's not a Jedi Order, it's something different. And then, Ahsoka with her new, like, I just follow the will of the Force and do what's right and help my friends, is like, this is actually the best way to go. All right, it's a stupid idea because she's got to take out Thrawn and Thrawn will go back and she never would have left him. But I don't know. I just think it would be kind of interesting. And so she sets up some sort of like parallel Jedi Order out in this galaxy with whatever the other thing is. And this is why we don't really see her in the sequels, but like in the next phase, there's going to be this other sort of like school of thought that may rival whatever Rey is doing. That's my tinfoil theory.
It's a very intricate web tapestry.
Yeah, but there. I mean, it kind of, if this is like the birthplace of the Force, and there's these like primal like Force energy. I mean, I don't know if it's the birthplace of the Force, but it like clearly the Force has been here a very, very long time, and it's strong somehow in the Force.
Well, as I said, everything on the planet seems fearful. Yeah. Is this the Tython for the bad guys? Is this the dark side of the Force here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is that what's
I think that's more likely, actually, hearing everything you guys have said. You've opened up my eyes to a million new things, but just as we were talking, I was like, well, what if they don't leave, But I mean, I would have to say, like, if I'm just like low-hanging fruit, the next episode, there's going to be a skirmish. We're going to reveal the new thing. And I think, I don't know. And I think Thrawn will leave this episode, and the next episode, it'll be Ahsoka battling with whatever, and them finally grabbing a Purgle and taking off and going back somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. It's so weird. I think especially because we know that there's going to be a large movie event. Yeah. Right. So like,
it's going to happen in a long time. You got to get
Ahsoka back in the galaxy.
So like they may get stuck here for a minute.
Yeah, for a minute. I think that's an interesting thing. I think
they might still be there when the show ends.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if this season ends and they are not out of this galaxy. Right.
So yeah. I'm also interested in Ahsoka. Talking about Greek mythology, sort of like Enoch's face mask and the fates and stuff like that. Like, Ahsoka to me, I always thought, she's very kind of Arthurian in that episode of Mandalorian where she fights Morgan Elsbeth. She feels like they're even like Goranson's music is very like medieval, sort of like harpsichordy kind of sound in that episode where she's almost like a knight, and then she gets more samurai, and then now I'm like, she's kind of entered like mythic territory.
Yeah.
Where she's almost like, we talk about Gandalf a lot of the time in the high fantasy angle, but like in the mythic angle, like she's kind of like Hercules to me. Whereas like the character of Hercules once wasn't subject to the threads of the
fates,
the fates,
right?
Basically.
Yep.
Yeah. So to me, Ahsoka isn't subject to this threat.
No, she stands outside.
She can basically elude it and circumvent it, in my opinion, and that's what I'm hoping she does. And I'm also hoping that, I read the Tross Visual Dictionary recently, and in there's a little section in the sacred texts where they talk about the world between worlds, and it's called Hidden Depths. Is this little like sort of breakout description, and it's separating myth from history proves difficult in the ancient language of Jedi scripture, which leans heavily on metaphor. This page from the text describes the Force as a twisted ribbon lining the perimeter of all reality. Transit to any point across the cosmos is made possible by traversing the path through the netherworld of unbeing. And that's just like a tiny little thing in that book, and I was like, that is the netherworld of unbeing. That's almost like what that episode was with Anakin,
right?
Where
Totally.
she had to almost like unlearn everything she ever was, and sort of like this netherworld of unbeing. And I'm like, to me, Ahsoka will likely find a way back, because I think out of all the characters, she is this sort of like traveler archetype.
I love that.
it's
just kind of like Cable from Marvel, or like
oh yeah, totally.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Like I don't know other comps.
it's so hard though because I see where you're coming from, Ben. Because it's like with the sequel trilogy, we have to get the pieces in the chessboard have to move a certain direction, right? Like it's weird to have all these people,
But they've
and that's
got
what we
time.
deal with
They've
a lot
got like
with these
15
things.
years.
They got a
So
lot
you
of
don't wanna
time, right? So they
jump
can
it too
do that.
fast, you know.
No, and they seem to be taking their time, which is what I appreciate. But like I think about like when I was playing Jedi Survivor, right? Where it's just like again, somewhat spoiler alert, but I think this is still first act. But like they discover the new world that they have to get to, right? Remember there's that
Tanalorr.
whole thing. Tanalorr, thank you.
Kobo? Oh,
Tanalorr.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, so Tanalorr is clearly they're gonna get there, they're gonna get their way shut off, and this is where Cal Kestis is during the entire thing. Right? Like it's so hard with these when you're telling these parallel stories, just like because every time like, well, you gotta get Cal Kestis off the board before like the rebels actually come into fighting the Empire. Because it's just like
Where is he?
I hate to say this. Okay, who cares about Luke Skywalker? If you have Cal Kestis, who cares about Luke Skywalker? Because Cal Kestis would just go in and destroy everyone.
Yeah, he'd be super strong.
Yeah, so it's similar as like Ahsoka, like where's she gonna be when the Force awakens? Like, and then we have to deal with the Forces being asleep. Why is it asleep?
I mean,
what does that mean?
That's interesting, right? Like, does it have something to do with the Force awakening or going to sleep? Or
something that Balin does lead to the Force, quote unquote, sleeping, right? For a few decades. Yeah.
Ahsoka's primary objective is to stop Thrawn, though, to stop another war.
Yep.
So
it's hard.
The end of the season, I imagine Ahsoka will confront Thrawn in some way. And when the
team up with
the Great Mothers tell Thrawn about her arrival, he seems legitimately like unbalanced and
definitely
a little like not frightened. I don't know what you'd say,
Tense,
just wary of what that could mean.
Yeah,
you know. And I was like,
which is
cool. Like
it's cool, and I appreciate it about Thrawn because
is she the one that kills him? Has he seen the future? Like these are the kind of questions. I really do think there's a precognition side of the story. Like there's a whole precog side of the story that I think is not being told to us. Like that Thrawn maybe.
I think that makes sense with the Night Sisters. That's definitely a thing. And like you said, with the way that the Chiss uses Force users, right? There's something there.
Totally.
I think the other thing too is he knows not to underestimate full blown Jedi. At this point.
Right.
Like, so he might be like, oh no.
He's just constantly dunking on Morgan. He's like, I thought you knew not to underestimate a Jedi. He's like, our numbers are dwindling.
Yeah.
So no. It's just like she's like she came all the way here. Worst reception ever. Like, wow.
Oh man.
Thrawn.
Do we? Is it time for the medal ceremony? Yes. So Grant put this together. We got a little medal ceremony.
Oh, this is an old thing. We used to do this all the time back in the day on the old pod, but we do little award categories for the episode, and we'll do them going forward for each episode of the series, the next 2 episodes we have remaining. But it's fun. It's just a fun thing because I bet we didn't choose the same stuff, and that's what's so fun about it. And it's cool to jump through the thing. So let's start off. Chosen one award. Which character was the standout character for you in this episode? I think we all probably have the same. As I said, we all might have different answers. I think
so. The Howler was yours too.
Have the same.
There you go. Well done.
Mine rhymes with prawn.
Oh, okay.
So I imagine that's where you guys chose as well. But
no, mine rhymes with Minoc.
Oh, Enoch.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, because I could have gone Enoch across the board.
Yeah.
I may go Enoch across the board.
I can't just can't be full Enoch.
I was trying to be an edgelord there. It was, and I really thought you were all going to pick Balin's Skull. Balin was my standout.
Oh, you're
awesome.
Balin's Skull.
See,
this
is why it's important.
Wow,
it's important to do this, right? Because also, I mean, it is hard for me. Like, I mean, Thrawn was an amazing Thrawn. Balin's Skull continues to be the force that moves this whole thing forward. Like, just love it. But I mean, Enoch. Like, I mean, come on. Like, I do not care about any other character anymore. I love that they gave him lines.
I don't care about any other character anymore.
No, because that's the thing is like it could just be like.
Wait, is that not the character from The Expanse, the actor from The Expanse or something?
Oh, is that who that's going to be?
I believe so.
Okay, so Enoch is now my favorite character of all time.
What?
So that's gonna
Yeah.
be,
Wait, is he that? Is he the
you're
heavy
so
from The
right.
Expanse?
A
Yes.
wasteland nomad.
I forgot he was in
prey on
this.
each other.
Oh man,
Survival.
That's my favorite character from The Expanse. And now my favorite character, that's totally who that's
so he's
gonna
going to be a character if they've got that actor playing him.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. My favorite
Oh,
sociopath.
man. Now I'm upset I didn't fill in Enoch across the board
No,
here.
that's all right.
It's because he's a winner.
Yeah.
It's a complete dub on Adam's part. But yeah, background player, best sort of minor character.
Of the episode.
Of the episode.
I'll say this because it's been the best minor character of the whole series, and keep him secret, keep him safe. Hu Yang.
Okay.
Yeah, Yang's a good one.
He doesn't talk for very long in the episode, but
Yeah.
he's been a major player thus far. But in
Has he
this
been a
episode,
major
super
player?
minor
Like
character?
he's just there chirping in with a couple like lines here and there, and I'm like,
I think the first 2 episodes he gets quite a
Okay.
bit of speaking lines.
Right.
Like he is way up front.
Yeah.
But I got to go Enoch in this category. So like, because it really only says a few things. But
steals.
I'm
the
not.
Good.
I'm not.
Be the
I
best
will
backup
choose
character
Enoch
all
because
time.
Enoch in my heart is a major character.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. Like,
And chosen one can be any character. So
Yeah.
you didn't violate that.
no. So
category
it's
in any
hard,
way.
right? Because I'm like, what's a minor character in this thing? And I'm like, I will. I'm going to group together the 3 Night Sisters.
Oh,
right?
I thought of that
as
too.
a single
Yeah.
character.
Great mothers.
Yeah,
Great
yeah, the
pick.
mothers.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of lines.
Yeah, no, but they're
They're minor.
key, and they
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very cool. Cool costume design. There's kind of like the reverberating voice.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool stuff. Utini shot, best camera shot of the episode.
Super
Ben,
easy.
let's hear
It
it.
is the shot where they sort of jib arm up from the plateau as the Star Destroyer is coming right at the castle.
Shield
Yeah,
generators first.
Yeah.
Great, that
So
shot.
same. I had that same one.
Great shot.
The internet may have gone a lit with a lot of coupling jokes about
They're like
the external
I
state
think
of
they
that.
said this was the most penetration there's ever been in a Star War. But
Yeah, it is. It is the
Yeah,
It
the
is.
base
Yeah.
of that tower
Yeah.
is
a
definitely
little-
evocative.
Yeah, it's a little evocative.
Yeah, it's-
Yeah. But no, Ben, that was mine as well. Like that is just an amazing shot.
Yeah, that shot was really. I even the shot of kind of the underbelly of
Yeah.
the Chimera for a second there. I'm gonna go. I'll try to differentiate here. I kind of liked when all the soldiers were lined
Yeah.
up and we had
That was my
the
runner-up.
shots.
Yep.
yeah,
Thrawn sort of like the first reveal of Thrawn
Yeah.
was just through a bunch of boots and armor, and I was like, oh, you can kind of see a Chiss guy walking down that like. It's him, it's Thrawn. You know, it's like, I got so excited about that shot. It was such a great reveal. The Enoch walkout,
Enoch
when he
walkout,
walks
yeah.
out with a couple guys, the sound design that accompanies that moment and that shot was to me, like, if you had to ask me, that's my favorite shot of the episode. Like Enoch sort of
Yeah.
like walk out. And it kind of like stays with them for a hot second.
It's so good.
I love that shot.
What I love about Thrawn's walk too is they're clearly evoking like Vader and a lot of the stuff from like Return and stuff like that. But like he walks pretty crisply and pretty fast. His walk is actually pretty fast. And I love that. It's like a change on like the slow march of the Imperials. He's just very crisply like just
efficient.
And it's way more dynamic coverage
Yep.
than the Return of the Jedi
Yeah.
walkout with Emperor with Palpatine and Vader. It's we're seeing from the boots. We're in the line of soldiers.
Yeah.
We're kind of like the camera's just moving around. I was like, this is awesome. Like if we can just do all of that all over again with Vader, I'd watch it all over again. Yeah, it was so cool. Yeah, so initial reveal of Chimera was like my other pick. So, but you picked that, Ben. That's amazing. Sunless Space Award, best dialogue of the episode. Is there a quote or best moment of dialogue for you guys? Speech.
I like the
Could be a long.
I like the
speech.
award name that's there, giving a love
Yeah.
to our
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Luthen. Yeah.
The goat.
Goat. The actual only goat in
It's
Star
so true.
Wars.
Yeah.
But it's like that.
cannot
no one
wait
shall be
to get
goat.
the Black Series Luthen Rail coming on to store shelves soon. Yeah, not even joking.
God, I would buy the ship. You know, I would buy all of it.
I think I'd have to pick a Balin Skull line here, and I don't have one fully fleshed out here. But him talking about wanting to break the cycle. What I seek is the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I took from that same exchange as that I love the way he goes. It repeats again and again and again and again. It's like the number of times he says again. I love, like, it's not just like again and again and again. Like he just is clearly like I've been in fights or arguments before where I like will over repeat myself. Where I'm just like I clearly am. My brain is broken and I'm so upset. And I just love that he's that moment of like someone who's so measured. To have that moment of just again and again and again and again and again, like he just says it like one too many times.
Yeah, that was like the folktales interaction I wrote down.
Yeah.
He's like, when I was a little older than you are now, like I watched everything burn. Mm-hmm. He's like, as you get older, you look at history and you realize everything is inevitable. The fall of the Jedi, the rise of the Empire. Mm-hmm. It repeats again and again and again, like Adam's saying, and like that. That whole thing. And then when he starts that whole thing where we're in the lands of dreams and madness.
Yeah.
Children's stories come to life. It's just so.
I mean, he is so the Luthen Rail
like he's such a
of the series, right? Like, yeah.
I gotta go with Thrawn, and when he takes that first step towards Sabine, he's like, "Oh yes, the desire to be reunited with your long lost friend. That singular focus will reshape our galaxy." I was like. It starts with an yes, which like Thrawn needs that like in anything really, and I was like, it's perfect in my mind.
Thank you. Before I know not to interrupt the medal ceremony, but that reminds me, like, so not to totally derail us. Why is Ezra still alive?
I think because he's too good at hiding. He's a Jedi and
can't be killed.
He's like he keeps escaping.
Yeah. I guess the numbers just like it feels like Thrawn made an active decision. To let him live, and I want to know why.
I think he's just too hard to kill. But maybe you're right. Like maybe he's just out there. If the monster or whatever is chasing Ezra, it's not chasing Thrawn. So he like lets him
like something. Yeah. There's something going on because they have like that many stormtroopers. I understand that Jedi are very very powerful, but hey, I saw Order 66.
Yeah, right.
Like that is enough stormtroopers to kill.
Well, their numbers have dwindled significantly.
I mean, that'd be amazing if it was just Ezra.
Just Ezra.
It's the only thing that's been.
I mean, because when last we saw Ezra, super powerful. So doesn't have a lightsaber, but maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe we just haven't seen it yet.
But he doesn't seem. He might. He just doesn't seem like a Jedi that's killed hundreds of stormtroopers, right? Like he seems much more balanced and more zen than someone who's just been slaughtering.
But he's familiar with the dark side. Like maybe there was a dark couple of years there where he
It's true. He could have Colonel Kurtzed it for a while.
Yeah. The thing that's on the planet might not hurt Ezra either if he can tap into the dark side. Yeah. Right. So but there might be a whole other side to Ezra we haven't seen yet.
Sorry. Back to the medal ceremony. Just that popped in my head.
Ben Burtt's Badge of Excellence for best sound effects of the episode. What's your favorite? What was your favorite sound effect of the episode? Or just moment of sound
I got to think about this because there was definitely a moment I was like, where I was like, that's amazing. You know what? It might have been the like weird chanting going on while Thrawn was being revealed.
Ben, God, so good. Literally, I was gonna the
Imperial Sardaukar sort of like
chanting. It was the chanting in the boots, and it was really well.
Yeah, and there was
like
but it was like weirdly unsyncopated. There were some other like hoots and hollers and like weird. It sounded like it was really hard for me to sort of pick out anything, but there was like it was like really musical and effective and fun.
Yeah, you hear a guy shout attention in that scene.
Yeah, it felt
cool.
It felt ragged in a way. Like I can't explain. Like it felt like these are people. Like it matched their uniforms, right? It matched their armor. Like it just felt like they've been a decade of just surviving. So yeah. Once again, Ben stole mine. So that was going to be mine. No, it's fine. We just have really good takes.
This is where I have Enoch again.
Oh, yeah,
Enoch's vocoder.
Yeah,
again.
His vocoder's great. Yeah.
Die well. Yeah, it's just so good. Just everything about his voice is incredible.
I cannot wait for him to take off his helmet, and Carly is going to be so excited because she does not know that Amos from the expansion.
What if it's like Gladiator and he can just flip up that little face mask? And he's just like
that's what it looks. Which leads us to our next award,
best drip. Best drip.
I mean,
favorite costume of the episode.
We can just move on. This is another this pretty quickly, right? Like, come on. If anyone,
I'm gonna prove the opposite here. But what do you guys? You guys going Enoch again?
Gotta go Enoch.
Yeah, and if you don't say Enoch, you're wrong. But go ahead. What do you want to say?
I said Enoch initially, but then as I watch this series and as we keep going with the series, I just waver between Balin Skull and Shinhati.
Yeah.
Like I just
that's
love
fair.
those outfits.
That's fair.
I love like the warrior
Yes,
Jedi
that is fair.
attire and like
Yeah,
I don't know, like just for me, like the Shinhati attire of like the
Yeah,
brown robes,
I do
and,
love
like,
that.
armor
Yeah, the
pieces
pauldrons.
is like the coolest.
I
thing.
catch myself just
Yeah,
staring at her
I
drip, being
love
like,
that.
"That's so cool."
Mhm.
The
It's
drip is
unreal on here.
unreal.
It's really
on
good.
Shinhati.
I will say, since we haven't done the medal ceremony yet this season, that's allowed.
That's allowed.
Yeah. So yeah, we haven't done it yet, but Enoch,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Guys. Well, I just couldn't. We couldn't do it for. I could do Enoch for every category. in this
It's hard not
episode.
to. But I also love the Ezra look a lot. Like it just feels like
It's
it's just
a cool look
Yeah,
for.
Ezra's was great,
it is
and
neat.
honestly, don't sleep on Sabine Wren. I mean, Mandalorian armor with the whole like,
yeah. Oh, she looks great. In the
and
fight
like the
scene,
good,
though,
the
man.
bad, and the ugly, like poncho over the Mando armor, with like the little bits and bobs glowing underneath. Like that looked amazing.
yeah, it's super
The
cool.
choreography was awesome. I love that scene. I like how messy that scene was, and like, I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of the choreography in the sequels, but I really liked this choreography here and sort of how messy. I know like Kylo and Rey were not meant to be like super talented sword fighters like in many of the movies where they were fighting, but Sabine's not very talented. She's talented, but she's more just kind of rugged and slapdash in her fighting style. And it's sort of like, and she just goes with what works. And I feel like that's, I feel like I really liked the choreography with her character, even though she's still trying to find her footing in most of the fights.
I think it was telling that she was sort of disarmed with her Mandalorian weapons, and then as soon as she brings out the lightsaber, that completely turns the tide of the fight in her direction. And like, I don't even know if all her guns are destroyed now.
I feel like she deflects a laser bolt in that scene too, where I was like, did she just deflect a laser bolt? Like,
It's
I swear, if you watch that scene,
might.
a guy fires his blaster and she kind of swings the saber and smacks it into his eyeball or something. Like,
I'll have to rewatch.
I don't know. I have to watch that scene.
It's
again,
fascinating
but I was
that
like,
I feel like Sabine's always just like, oh, that's right, I have a lightsaber.
Right.
Like she's so not Jedi in that way that she's like, oh, right. Like I'm like, you should have started out with a lightsaber.
that brings us. That's a perfect segue to our next category. This weapon is your life award.
Yeah.
For those of us who know about a lightsaber, it's our life. This is best weapon, gadget, or item featured in the episode. You can also choose armor or story MacGuffins.
I've got one. It's the
Go for it.
seeker device, the like nav device that the handheld that Sabine uses.
Little scanner
it's like
thing?
chunky and
that's
beautiful.
cool.
It's like so Star Wars.
Yeah, it's huge.
And it's just like all the greeblies all over it. That was like classic Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes a cool noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed whatever you needed to do, whatever you need them to do, they do orbs that the Night Sisters use.
Oh yeah,
totally.
I called those thread spinners.
Threads, as you mentioned them earlier. Yeah,
notes.
I do love those. I'm just like, they just can be like,
they can do anything.
They can be shackles. Yeah,
they can do a lot of stuff. They're multifunctional kind of things. I got to go with Sabine's lightsaber, or Ezra's lightsaber.
Yeah.
I just when she pulls that out, that's why when we were talking about that, I was like, dude, that to me is like, I love when Sabine.
It's going to be a
green lightsaber. Green lightsabers to me, there's something about green lightsabers.
Same.
I don't know what it is. It really gets me going.
Like,
it makes me feel like this is a hero no matter what. You can root for a character that has a green lightsaber no matter what.
I mean, when we were at Galaxy's Edge and we made the lightsabers, I just was like green without even thinking about it. For some reason, it's just like, to me, it's like, that's the one. It's like just green.
Yeah, it's like
like that's a Jedi.
Green light. Yeah, so
it's going to be a great moment probably in the next episode when she has to pull out that lightsaber and he's just like, wait, that's mine. Like, just like, I love the moment. Like,
yeah, I hope she gets to keep it because she's.
I hope Ezra has one that's like made of like turtle shell and bone or something like.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, something really barbaric.
Okay, this brings us to a funnier award. The Don't Try It award. Worst decision made by a character in the episode.
Oh man!
Don't try it.
Good. It's a good Obi-Wan poll right there.
I gotta say, Balin Skull and Shinhati going on the hunt for Sabine while Thrawn and Morgan are preparing to leave the planet that is eons away from the known galaxy.
Yeah,
I gotta say, not a great decision on their part.
Yeah,
they're getting suckered into this thing, and I mean, I know Balin has his own agenda, but it's like the clock's ticking. Like, I mean, yeah.
It's hard not to say the random red shirts that attack Sabine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those guys had
Like,
it coming. Yeah.
Literal
That's a
red
great
shirts.
call,
Yeah.
actually.
Literal red shirts.
Those
Yeah.
guys ambushed the wrong rebel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
bad news. That's a great pull. Also, the bandits that show up later to confront actual Jedi.
Yes.
Those guys.
I
it's
think
gonna be tough.
my bad decision was Ahsoka asking Hu Yang how he really felt about like what was going on and to explain himself because she's like she's like he doesn't pull any punches and he just tells her how it is and she's like, why don't you tell a story now instead? Like she's like, you're telling me stuff I don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Remember those stories I hate? Just tell me one of them.
And I'm sure it'll be forever. Just rewatching the Sabine lightsaber fight, she does indeed deflect a laser bolt right in someone's face.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Well, and
that
it
happens.
seems when you watch it, it seems accidental because she's swinging.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like
it's
it's like a real
force
whatever,
honed
but it still
laser
counts.
deflection.
Yeah.
It does feel like she just it's just cool that she like
Smacks
smacks
it.
a laser bolt at the guy. It's kind of awesome. Okay, memeable moment of the episode, or memeable moment award. A moment you think will be made into a meme. Hard not to say die well.
I mean, can I also choose to say
Die well, like
a literal meme has been created about this episode already, which we talked about earlier, which is the coupling between the Fortress and the Star Destroyer. But yes, the die well definitely should be the one.
I can't wait to go home. Ezra's I can't wait to go home. I imagine people might use that.
Yeah.
But then like Sabine's expression.
Yeah. She's like, here's the thing.
About that trip home. Yeah.
That actress does some great face acting in this episode. Like this the what me when I smell Jedi. That one reeks of Jedi.
Like,
yeah.
Hi, Daddy. What kind of mounts you guys got? During our exile, numbers have dwindled. So no, the Thrawn moment where he's just like
that was the one I was gonna say.
Like,
where he just like gives that beat and you just get the stare.
That stare is pretty funny. Yeah. I think Great Mothers, I shall once again require your dark magic. I would use that.
You could definitely use that. Yeah, I can see it used.
If it's like I need to do something, but it's like it seems like an impossible task.
All I think about my life is now doing dishes with a 3-year-old, so I just want to take a picture of my overflowing sink and say "Great Mothers." Again, I need you.
that I just that it's like for that to die well, honestly.
Yeah.
Spectacular Species Award. I'm throwing this in last minute. Best new species spotlighted in the episode.
Wolf.
I think Noti, right? I mean,
I like the Howlers.
I was gonna say the Howlers, but I guess the Noti weirdly because it's like you're talking about like species that are like sentient or non-sentient because like it's so hard. But I gotta go with the Howler. It just reminds me of my dog.
I was going to do convincing creature award, and I was going to go creature or Howler.
Yeah.
Noti, I would say, are like a people or a species.
Definitely
They've
species.
done such a good job with creatures this whole season. Like they've looked amazing, seamless.
That's Filoni, right?
So for best shot, I almost picked the shot where Sabine is sort of like trotting out on the Howler into that. Clearly, it's like the volume SoCal kind of like location or whatever. But it's like I just love the look of that scene and sort of the laden, arid wasteland and like the Howler and her trotting around. I thought that was so good. Some of the shots were just fantastic. The atmosphere. One with the Force Award, best Force related moment of the episode, or best moment in which a character uses the Force.
I think you got to go.
Does anyone use the Force this episode? Oh, does anyone use the Force this
the
episode?
Night Sisters do. I mean,
okay.
But I think I would probably go with the Sabine moment where she's trying to use this Force and it's faked, and it's the thing.
Yes,
that would probably be it for me. You know, when the Death Star arrives.
Yeah, that's definitely.
No obvious. Yeah,
no
same.
obvious
Because you could argue Force, her deflecting, but again, I don't think that's really the Force. I don't think no, other than like Ahsoka communing a bit with the Purgles, but like no, I don't know.
It's really it's really just that almost false moment of the Force, with Sabine, which is kind of a fun moment.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, once again, we get a lightsaber battle and all this other stuff, and almost zero Force use in an episode of Star Wars.
It's so
we get
cool.
all the Star Wars. Yeah.
Already
Very cool stuff. That's it. That's it for Medal Ceremony. We
That
handled
was
it.
fun. And yeah, I think that's it for this episode. We got so much information in this episode. It's hard to even process all of it. I'm sure we'll be processing it for for time to come.
Yeah.
Because they just dumped so many more questions, as they asked. So. And answered. So super fun.
We tried to conduct this pod in an acceptable time frame
Yeah.
for Thrawn.
Yeah, right. An hour and a half, so like twice the length of the episode seems about right. But
Yeah. Usually par for the course.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But all right, everyone. Thanks very much for listening to us this week. We'll talk to you again next week with the penultimate episode review.
Boy.
And until then, tip your bartenders, and may the force be with you. We'll talk to you next week on Cantina Chronicles.